Quakecon 2022 is here. As a part of the show, Bethesda hosted a variety of panels, many of which actually revealed new information on some of their upcoming content for their games. We get a look at some of the future ESO stuff, some more details on Redfall, but what is probably most important for this video, the developers of Fallout 76 give us an update on the future of the game. And the pretty nice part about this is it wasn't just an update on the future as far as expeditions go, but it even gets a bit beyond that, some of the stuff we can expect in 2023. The Q&A was hosted by KevDoit, who makes pretty amazing videos that you should definitely check out. I'll have a link to his channel down below. And he spoke with several of the directors and leads working on Fallout 76 at Bethesda. They describe how expeditions give them the opportunity to explore other locales in the Fallout universe and how the next location is already in early pre-production, which is actually a pretty big reveal. The first expedition, which has been in the public test server for a while, I've playtested it, made videos on it, is coming in just a few weeks. They discuss that here also. And it seems like they are very much so using this expeditions framework in a way as the future of the game to a degree. They created this new feature and they're going to be continuing to use it in the future. They don't really give us any hints as to where the next expedition will be taking place, but you definitely have to think Washington DC has a pretty decent likelihood. But they also do touch on how expeditions with the pit specifically could grow and expand over time. Expeditions is going to be using this new quest module. So basically, as you load up the mission, there's 9 potential objectives, and each time it picks 3 of those 9 randomly. So hopefully each time you do the mission, things will feel slightly fresh and a bit different. But even further, as they were designing expeditions, they went through lots of iterations on how things would look. This not being surprising, considering it was originally revealed all the way back in 2020, when we're only actually getting the first one at the end of 2022. But as we can see, they landed on this mission structure for expeditions. And with the pit, the way it works is there's 2 missions, and you really are doing 2 completely different things. Technically, each of those missions takes place in Pittsburgh, but they're completely disconnected. Different world spaces, different objectives, some of the same characters, but a lot of different characters all throughout them. And they describe how in the future they're going to expand on the pit. What we have right now is not the end of the content for this first expedition location. And it seems like there's multiple fronts as to where they could expand or add more to this. New missions, so perhaps a 3rd mission coming to the pit at some point in the future, but also in those potential objectives that could pop up. We know there's 9 right now, but this could be another area they could grow and expand things going forward. They kind of talk about this all on a higher level, not explicitly confirming anything, just that there will be new content on the pit, and it seems like it'll be either new missions or new objectives, or probably both. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, they mentioned how the pit is dropping on September 13th, so only a few more weeks of waiting before you can jump in, unless you've been playing it on the public test server for months now. They revealed the pit recruitment bundle, which did trigger a bit of a controversy, and does all kinds of interesting things, but there's definitely one standout item: the Fusion Core Recharger, which seems to be this really cool item in game where you could place fusion cores in this and it will gradually charge them over time. Rather than just having to dispose of all of your used or partially used fusion cores, you now actually have a method to get more use out of them. And for power armor users, or I think even more valuable to people who really rely on energy weapons, this could be a real game changer. The problem being, it seems like it's just a bundle item. The way this has worked in the past is the bundles will typically be $30, or at least that's how much the last one was with the Brotherhood of Steel bundle, and it's not something you could buy in the Atomic Shop. This is more of a proper DLC for the game. You're going to have to go onto Steam or on the Xbox app and actually spend $30 for this. You can't use your atoms in game. Technically, none of that has been confirmed as of yet, but again, every single bundle has worked like this, so a lot of people are pretty frustrated where they just want the Fusion Core Recharger. It is a genuinely cool item, but seemingly the only way to get it will be to buy this entire bundle, and even if you have thousands of atoms sitting on your account, that won't matter. You're going to have to whip out your wallet for this one. Some of the past bundles have come to the Atomic Shop, but it was only years after their initial release, so I don't think you're going to be able to get this one on the Atomic Shop anytime soon. Expeditions seem to be one of the big parts of Fallout 76's future, but they make it pretty clear here it's not all of the game's future. They describe having more quest content, events, and daily ops content on the way, and this is mostly stuff that's going to be coming in 2023. The quest content in particular to me is interesting, and they emphasize on how it's a lot of the traditional content that players expect to see in a Fallout game, which to me is just music to my ears. That is exactly what I want for Fallout 76. Give me these events like we have been getting, give me the expeditions, but then give me those traditional quests, these stories that Fallout does so well, which otherwise has pretty much been completely lacking in 2022. They don't expand on this at all. They just kind of say that line and mention more quests in the future, which is exciting, but I would personally love to see them actually revisit the pit in this way. If you never played the expeditions, or if you're waiting to, there really isn't a lot of of story content here. You're basically doing a mission. It's a gameplay focused DLC, not a story focused DLC. It'd be kind of cool if they actually come back to it in a future update and add in a new area or even add in quests to the existing areas. Give me new characters, give me lore, let me see what the pit was like before the events of Fallout 3 to a greater degree. They mentioned how new gameplay features are coming to the game, just broadly, nothing specific, and one of the things that was absent from this list of future updates is mod support. As of recording this video, it has been a full 1,530 days since Todd Howard confirmed mods would be coming to Fallout 76, but we still have no idea when or if that is ever going to happen. They talk a bit about Nuka World on tour, which is largely being done by Double 11. It's one of the 2 support studios that is aiding Bethesda Game Studios in Fallout 76's development, and they describe how Nuka World on tour is going to bring 3 new public events, a new region boss, and this has been data mined, is the Ultrasite Abomination, as well as a plethora of Nuka-Cola themed rewards, and a variety of Nuka-Cola assets are already in the game's files. And the next 2 seasons will be themed around the corresponding content. Next season will be heavily pit-themed items, and the one after that will be a lot of Nuka-Cola themed content. This Double 11 partnership is like the one thing still giving me hope in Fallout 76's future, and overall it's pretty interesting. I would say the single biggest issue with Fallout 76 is there is a lack of content. Updates are few and far between, and even with some of the updates as of late, there's just not a ton of new stuff to do or experience. It's little bursts of new experiences and a lot of the same stuff that's always been there. It seems like Nuka World on tour will be the first big thing Double 11 has worked on, and that makes me curious. It'll be interesting to see how this lands. We do know that Double 11 has actually been hiring modders from several of the most popular Fallout 4 mods. And if there's now effectively 2 teams working on Fallout 76, that could mean great things for the amount of content we see through the end of this year and going forward. Perhaps Expeditions is a big update, and then Nuka World on Tour follows it up as another very meaty update. Technically at this point, Bethesda has actually never released the final update on their roadmap. Every single year this update has been delayed, so maybe we'll actually get something this year, and maybe it'll actually be pretty sizable. But at the same time, we know developers were pulled off of Fallout 76 to work on Starfield, so perhaps the Double 11 edition is just replacing what was gone. But there are also some changes coming to camps. They just mentioned that a free cam building mode is coming later this year, so some kind of ability to detach your camera from your character. They describe how this is heavily based off of what was requested by players, basically a direct response to feedback, and it honestly sounds like an awesome feature, very reminiscent of what we saw in the Starfield gameplay reveal, although likely not nearly as in depth. And one final thing they mention on camps is how they're exploring new ways to expand the item game and more ways to interact with camps and possibly sharing camps. At one point with Fallout 76, they described a way to actually connect camps. It almost sounded like I'd be able to place a camp down, you could place one next to me, and we can make a super camp combining both of ours. So perhaps this is something like this. They really just say sharing camps. We don't really know what that means. Maybe it just means people being able to build together more. Either way, more ways for the communities to edit and use this game as a base for creation is always going to be a good thing. Overall, I find Fallout 76 to be in a pretty weird spot. I think Expeditions are fun. They're interesting new content, but a lot of it's pretty familiar. It's very familiar to daily ops. Even though it's a new place, you're kind of doing that same thing. Running around, taking out enemies, doing objectives. And although it definitely feels like Bethesda is categorizing them as something very different, when you actually play it, or at least when I actually played it, it felt pretty familiar. I'm curious to see how much of a content change-up there is with Double 11 coming on board. I think this could be a big thing for the game, or it could be nothing. It's really hard to tell, but I definitely will be covering the Expeditions update as it goes live, and every other major update that Fallout 76 gets throughout the rest of this year, because let's be honest, all the other games got delayed out of this year. Which, speaking of, there's been some interesting stuff going on with Starfield. Starfield was not mentioned at all during Quakecon, although it wasn't really expected to be. It wasn't on the schedule. But Gamescom is coming in just a few days, and it seems like Starfield will be absent from this also. Bethesda revealed their plans for Gamescom. They described how they'd have a community meetup and actually show Starfield gameplay there. Some people got excited, but it seems like the plan is just to show the gameplay that was already revealed, and they later edited that post for it to say that's going to be a replay of the old gameplay, and then it was actually updated a third or fourth time to just remove the gameplay segment altogether. So it seems pretty unlikely that Starfield will be at Gamescom, but who knows, maybe it'll somehow find its way there. Either way though, those are the updates on Fallout 76 and really Bethesda overall with Quakecon 2022. With that said, as always again, I thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.